let's do this. All right, the strategy behind this program, I've never seen a program. These are all things that I know I should do, but because they're so different from other programs, I've never fully done them. Well, now I'm finally doing what I know in my heart I need to. Strength curve. So rather than doing a program that hits one part of the strength curve or another, and if we're talking about strength curve, we're talking about like, okay, there's strength in the top, there's strength in the middle, there's strength all the way down. So strategically, Monday we're focusing on all the way down. So if we look at an ATG style split squat, if you look at it, because I'm going diagonally forward, every inch I go deeper gets exponentially harder in the fullest bend. So whereas a split squat, I come every inch out gets easier, whereas a squat actually gets toughest right about there. So whereas split squat is going to be done on Monday, and so religious dedication to driving up split squat strength on Monday, religious dedication to getting the squat stronger on Wednesday, and then religious dedication to strengthening the top position on Friday. That is the number one aspect of this strategy. The number two aspect is 2% rule. This is where I find a lot of mistakes are made if I look at my past training history. What this means, if I'm using a patient lifting method, that means I'm using a weight that I know I can do 5 sets of 5. That means the next week, if I get 5 sets of 5, the next week I have to go up. But we're only adding 2%. So say you're doing 50 kilos on a lift. That means if you get 5 sets of 5, next week you add half a kilo each side. That's it. If you're doing 100 kilos, you can add a kilo each side the next week, only if you get that 5 sets of 5. That's not for every exercise that's like that in terms of that patient lifting method of like 5 sets of 5. Some we're just going up to 1 rep maxes, doing drop sets. The point is, on any of the lifts in here, we're trying to just go up 2% the next week if we achieve something the week before. Number 3 is rest. I always know when I'm more rested, then I get better lifting sessions. But then when you rest too much, now you're not working hard enough. So what's the trick? We're only training Monday, Wednesday, Friday. God damn, is this working well for me, training only 3 days a week. But the workouts are so hard, you really need a training partner just to get through them. Hopefully you have a real training partner who can join you, but maybe that's just me to hold you accountable. But that means, yeah, you're off Tuesday, you're off Thursday. I might come in, do some relaxing stretching. Maybe you could do some grip or neck work. But honestly, like, freaking save it and then get ready to crush the next workout and then take a day off and crush the next workout. If you took the same volume and you spread it out over 7 days, you could go nowhere because you're never quite fresh enough to crush the workout, and then you're never quite letting yourself recover. So our strategy is to train really hard, take a day off, really hard, take it off, really hard, take 2 days off. It still gives you a chance if you're like me and you're actively pursuing a sprint or jump improvement, you still have the weekend you can get. So I'm doing 1 day where I do a lot of jumping, just 1 day on the weekend. So strength curve, 2% rule, rest, ground up. I've been saying build from the ground up for a while now. ATG, we build from the ground more than any other program, but still not as much as I know we need to. For example, split squat. You'll start just body weight only the first set. You'll do 5 sets of 5, gradually working your way up to your first working set of 5. But all 10 of those sets, the 5 warm-up and the 5 working sets, are supersetted with a standing calf raise where you're actually working at a tough weight for 5 reps. If you got it, you would add weight the next week. So you're getting 5 challenging sets of split squats for 10 challenging sets of calf raises. And then when you go to seated good morning, same thing, 5 warm-up, 5x5. You're getting 10 sets of standing tibialis raises. That's 10 sets of 5, meaning you're like really trying to walk your way out as far as you can and challenge yourself. 10 working sets of tibialis for 5 working sets on the hips. So this is brutal, but you're gonna rest anyways between these like more compound, heavier lifts. It's the same for squats and deadlifts. You're supersetting with calf and tibialis work. Over the course of the week, you're getting more calf and tibialis work than anywhere else. And then weak legs. For most guys who hit a plateau in their overall athletic ability, it's usually, not always, usually weak legs. So we have a remedy for each day of the week. So, for example, if you're like me, and if we look at like squat here, so there's tons of details, and that's why if you're actually gonna do this program, you're gonna see these details on the app with specifics. You see here it says squat. All right, I used a front squat and I went up to 100 kilos for one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 means you're doing sets of 5 until you get to a weight that you can't do 5. So you already did your set of 5 without realizing it, and now you just did your set of 4. Now you try to add a little bit more for 3, a little bit more for 2, a little bit more for 1. So it's actually like a fatigued max. And that number for me, I went up to 100 kilos. Then I went up to almost 180 kilos. Well, I did 180 kilos with not the best form, but on a clean deadlift from the floor. So 100 kilos to 180 kilos is not a great ratio. Point is, I will always be stopped in my overall power by how strong my legs are, not my hips. So right here I said CTS squat. I'm talking about cheeks to sneak. So we're talking about using a slant board so that at the bottom you're literally trying to get your cheeks to your sneaks. So whatever weight you work up to on the split squat, whatever weight you use for that 5 sets of 5, you're then you're gonna try to do 3 sets. I'd have a slant board under my heels, but you're gonna do 3 sets to failure, trying to get your cheeks to your ass has to touch your heels. That's the goal on every single rep. And then on Wednesday, and why that one? Because we're talking about the deepest bend. That makes it toughest in the deepest range. Then on Wednesday, you're gonna do a knee over toe squat. When I talk about knee over toe squat, I'm talking about stuff like this, where the challenge of it is just how far your knees can get over your toes. So in this case, I just want you going to the floor, put a little padding in front of your knees, like an inch or 2, and go ahead and assume your squat stance that you used. Another tidbit, if you aren't the guy with weak legs, you don't need to worry about this, but your squat, which you'll see these details in the app, your squat would be a back squat with chains. The secret to guys with weaker backs and hips compared to their legs is adding a shit ton of change to those squats and doing back squats. So if I'm doing this as accessory on this day, if you look at a squat, so on the squat as opposed to the split squat, if we look at the strength curve, boom, like that's the toughest part. And with the knee over toe squat, what's difficult is not how much the knees bend, it's how far the knee goes over the toe. So I'm still working more that mid position on that squat. So I'm talking assuming your squat stance, and driving those knees to the floor. And in this case, you'd work your way up. Maybe you can't even go to the floor. Maybe you can go to the floor. If you can go to the floor, you can try holding a plate. You can try actually putting, like I did mine, I put a light bar on my back, and at the bottom, just drive those quads to get out. You would build up to what's the heaviest thing you can do, and then you would drop about 20% weight, go to failure. With the rest, rest again, drop another 20%, go to failure. That's another thing you'll see in this, like for deadlift. One trick, when you look at the posterior chain, it often responds to reps. But at the same time, then guys aren't pushing their strength. It responds to reps because you're using hamstrings, glutes, lower back, you're using a lot. So you're using all this. So sometimes it takes a lot of reps to really get into it, but then if you only use reps, then you're never getting strong enough. So in this case, like when you do your deadlift, you slowly build up to your max, and then we're talking about a perfect form max. When I say clean deadlift, I mean 2 things with the word clean. One thing clean is meaning is an overhand grip, as if you're doing a power clean. Another thing, so you're not gripped like this, you're gripped like this. You can strap up. Another thing means is clean, like we're talking, if your back rounds, that is not the weight we're talking about. We're talking about only the weight that you can keep the low back arched. So you would go to that weight, and then you would take a good long break, do your seated tibialis raise. Seated tibialis means banding up a dumbbell. Drop 20%, and now you go to failure. And then you drop another 20% and go into failure. So you're going to a max, and then you're getting a medium set and a high rep set. This is there's so many little tricks in this program to make it work. Neither only heavy deadlifting or only high rep deadlifting have I seen give the best results. When you can mix them perfectly, where you're hitting your posterior chain with low and higher reps, it's the same thing on single leg back extension. Now we're talking. And then for the top position, we have reverse step up. If you're primarily a 2-foot jumper, I want you working the Peterson step up, which means you're lifting your own heel and pushing down. This is actually making sure that your Achilles area gets strong as your knee. If you're primarily a 1-foot jumper, I want you elevating your heel manually and focusing on that extension which is gonna relate more to your 2-foot jump. And then if your squats, if you're having to elevate your heels to get a good squat, if a regular squat causes you to round your back because of ankle mobility, I want you working the Patrick step up on squat, which means your heel stays down. So 3 different versions of step ups. But if you're like me and you're a weaker leg guy, one thing that can juice them up is when you finish your reverse step ups. This is the only time you don't superset with calves because you're already working your lower leg really hard. Rhythm squats. So you would take whatever weight you use for 5 sets of 5, you would do a set of 50 rhythm squats, rest, add weight, nice medium set, rest, add weight, and then go for 1 heavy set. So it's 3 sets of 50, a light, a medium, a heavy. Again, all details will be on the app. So these are the 5 key strategies that are on my mind for this coming week. Strength curve. Yes, this is the world's first program that adequately, appropriately trains the entire strength curve. 2% rule. We're being super patient with how much weight we add the next week. If we succeed, whatever we succeed at, we're being super patient the next week. Rest. We're strategically only training 3 days rather than stretching what we can recover from every day but never going all out. Go ahead and fuck yourself up in the gym. Take the next day off. Fuck yourself up, next day off. Fuck yourself up. Take the weekend off. Building from the ground up, absolutely more than any other program that I've ever seen. And then weak legs, which is optional, which would be done right after your A series. If, like me, and like I've seen about 90% of guys, it's the legs are the weaker link, not the hips. Compared to each other, about 10% will have actually weaker hips, and they simply don't need to do that. If you're a stronger legs, weaker hips, you're lucky. You will progress just fine. The only change you will make is adding chains to those squats. So those are the 5 strategies for this week. Probably seems confusing as hell right now, but I'm coming at you every single week. Ideally, we're doing this again next week. I'm proposing that this is the perfect program, but the search for the perfect program, my mind has never stopped resting. So this is exactly what I'm gonna do this week. And then next week, I'm gonna update you with exactly what I lifted and keep diving into this more. I'm gonna record like my top sets on everything so that next week I can plug into the app and show you like, what did it look like? What did my 5 sets of 5 weight look like? What did this stuff look like? To give you even more reality with actually being with me in the gym. And now, last thing, pay attention. I'll be alerting you when I write this up. This is the most important part, is to send in your last set through messages on split squat, seated good morning. These are such sensitive exercises to perfect form. This needs a strong notation because I have to remember to tell you one thing that's super important about that I didn't mention yet. Remember here, we're talking either front squat or back squat with chains. Super, super duper important. Here we're talking either Paul Quinn-Peterson or Patrick step up. The video for this shows all 3. And thing like back steps. So these 3 exercises, if you don't do them right, you can actually get nothing out of it. And these are the prime movers of a program. Once you get a calf raise down, it's down. But these progress, so it doesn't mean like once you do a split squat right once, that doesn't mean you're done. Like I need to see that. I need to see those 6, your last set, every single time. Good thing I noted that so I didn't forget. Clean deadlift. We're doing a very specific style. You're going to the best weight that you can pick up, off the floor without losing the natural curve of your back. But then the way down is a good 5 to 6 second eccentric Romanian deadlift. Huge mistake when it comes to training the hamstrings. They're so strong eccentrically. They're so strong on the way down. That's why we train them on Nordic. We train them we explode. We cheat our ass off to get up so that the way down we're overloaded with a really hard weight. The hamstrings are less likely to change if you use the same weight down that you can lift up. So you're adding your quads, so knee and hip to get up, but then only hip on the way down. That means on your rep sets, it looks like that. Fighting, lifting. So that's a very important point of that. It's a negative, accentuated, putting emphasis on the way down So we're not wasting our time. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time on the way down when we could be turning it into arguably one of the best possible exercises for your hamstrings. So that is it for this week. Let's have a killer week.